thoughts on the 2023 season?
Yeah, this is obviously something we've been looking forward to for a while. When we got this job, we knew that there was going to be a time where we were losing a lot of players, and we kind of had to rebuild and get back to this situation. You know, the pitching had to have that rebuild going on in 21, and they certainly took that step forward in 22. The offensive side last year, we were on the 1 year behind the pitchers and played a lot of young guys in 22, and we're hoping that they take that same step forward in this coming season. It'll be pretty fun if they do.
All right, questions?
Steve, is it comforting to have some pitchers back who have been out there in Missouri Valley games, such as this guy and a couple others, to hopefully take another step in that area?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the season will come down to that pitching side of things. We lost, I believe, about 55 innings in Colin Wyman, and those were, really, really good quality innings. But this 22 freshman class is probably the best class we've ever been able to put together. There's multiple arms that you want to throw, and we think can really impact us. And then there's a few transfers in there that also are going to have a few things to say about it. So the pitching side, knowing that you have multiple options going into weekends, and making sure that bullpen is your strength. My last year at Purdue, our bullpen was definitely our strength there, and we've been trying to get this thing to that situation. We feel like this year is probably the first time where you can shorten a game if you want. That starter gives you 5, and hopefully it can be a race to 5 and let that bullpen clean it up from there.
Do you go with a rotation of the veterans who have been there before, or are there some other roles you have in mind for those veterans?
It depends upon the veteran you're speaking of. I believe if it starts today, Derek Salata will throw on Friday. Jared Hart's role has probably yet to be determined. It'll be where he brings us the most value. It could be as another starter and split up the right-left thing. It could also be out of the bullpen in a very similar situation to where he started out last year for us, where we pitched him when we were winning. And that was the key that we really, as injuries happened to us on the mound, obviously we lost Lucier early on, and we ended up losing Salata as well. And then we took him out of that role, and we lost a lot of ball games late, and we'd certainly like to avoid that. So, we're waiting to see. We got 2 more weekends left before we have to really, pin things down. But ultimately, we would love to be able to pitch him when we're winning.
So you still see Lucier and Sinisco as most likely starters?
Lucier had surgery in, I want to say, June or so. He will not, probably be ready for a large role at the beginning of the season. It's, we'll see where he's at that point. Sinisco obviously is in the mix. He's started ball games for us since 2020, and has always given us a chance to win. And there's some really good freshmen on there, and there's a transfer or 2 in there that also trying to pick some of those big roles up. So we got 2 weekends left to let those things be solidified.
Coach, the Missouri Valley is just as tough as it's ever been. How do you feel that your squad shapes up to the rest, and what do you think that you guys do better?
Well, we return a pitching staff, like I said, that only lost 50 innings from last year, and they were the second best pitching staff in the league. The defense was the best defense in the league. We had down the stretch, we played a lot of young guys on the offensive side, and we finished near the bottom in runs scored, and that's what we're looking to figure out. Can those same guys take a step forward? We went to the conference tournament. You're starting a freshman in left. You had a freshman in right. You had a young man sitting next to me who only had 50 at-bats as a true freshman. He was a sophomore. Our second baseman, Greg Nichols, a lot of people forget that in California they sat out for 2 years in COVID. So he hadn't played baseball since his senior year of high school. Sat out 2 seasons, and then got thrusted into there. And so we were playing a lot of guys and kind of investing in them and hoping that pays us forward this season. So that's the part that we're looking forward to, is those guys take that step forward that you usually see in college athletics, but you're returning all the other 2 components that you really need to be good at.
Looking at some of those freshmen, who sticks out to you?
On the offensive side, I think you'll see Dan Pasella and Shy Robinson get out there quite a bit early on. Dan at times has been our best hitter. He's got the kind of power that most of our guys don't have, even if they hit from second base. So he's a large human being that can hit the ball a long ways. Shy Robinson's as gifted of a player as we've recruited here in a long time. He's ready defensively, but his offense is also ready. I think you'll see him get out there early on and get his feet wet and see where it takes him. And then on the pitching side, I think there's three young men that have separated themselves on the mound. Harper, you got Borberg, and you got Chadwick. Those three guys, they're all a little bit different. I think they provide you something uniquely different with the way that they go about their business, and their roles will be obviously different. But we've never been able to get three arms like that. And there's other arms in there as well that are also really good, but those three guys have probably separated themselves at this point. And, for us to rebuild with the pitching, when we started, if we could have had three guys like that, we would have been a lot further in front. But getting those three guys, and, I think if you look at that 2022 class, a lot of those guys committed to us based on our first season here. 2019 was obviously a very successful year for us. So the way baseball recruiting happens is you don't really get that, benefit until that far out. So that 22 class is, we're going to hang our hat on that thing, and I think we'll go a long ways with those young men.
And then some of the freshmen from last year coming back. JT Sokolov did a lot for you last year in some big moments. Who else are you looking at?
I think you'll see J.P. Gothier. He had some ups and downs a normal freshman year where, sometimes he felt like an older classman and sometimes he felt like a freshman. The maturity of a sophomore usually, shows up, and, every one of these guys, both these guys had up and down first years with us. Obviously, his coming out of junior college, but then the maturity, you see the maturity that year two. I think JP's a guy that could really benefit from that seasoning per se. And I wouldn't count out Ryan Weaver. Ryan Weaver started a couple ball games for us down the end, and he's looked pretty good so far in the early on January spring part of it. And it's another left-handed pitcher that we've had a lot of success with those lefties, and he's a guy that could certainly maybe not start out in a huge role from the get-go, but he could push his way into one.
Steve, you need to attach some positions to some of these guys who are going to be contributing a lot. I'm guessing we can start with Luke, and I'm guessing you kept him at shortstop.
Yeah. Luke held on to his position all fall and so far in January. I think you'll see Greg Nichols slide over to third base from second base. He's one of those guys that, similar to Joe Butler, where it gives you the chance to play the best 9 guys you can. So his versatility has helped us. He'll start out at third, if everything stays the same. We've kind of had 3 guys to play second and first, Judah Morris being one of them, Shy Robinson, and then Shea Kubo. Shea's a kid that we picked up off the portal from Northern Colorado, and he arguably has our best resume of any returning hitter. He's had some very good success at the Division I level with University of Northern Colorado. So he'll play. Whether he plays first or second will just depend upon the other 2 guys that we have a chance to put out there. I think you'd see JT Sokolov play center field, which he definitely is manning Ryan Cermak's position, but he did left field extremely well last year, saved us a lot of runs. That'll be a simple transition for him. And then I think the big man, you'll see Pacell out and left. He'll roam around, and you don't want to get in his way when he's out there. He's a little bit like a bull in a china shop. But and then Augie Rasmussen would probably be in right field. He's a guy that at the end of the fall we were starting him when we played outside competition and things like that. And he's got a lot of attributes similar to John Rave, where it's left-handed, runs really well, got some bat speed, had a little bit of ability to hit the ball over the wall. So I think at least that's how we ended the fall. So catcher, Tyler Woltman started 40% of our games last year. I think slightly more than that. We have 2 other guys that we brought in. There's transfer, Dylan Swarmer is a portal guy from Youngstown State. He was their everyday guy. And then Nick Strong has come in from a junior college in California. That position will probably most likely start out a little platoonish and see where it takes us, similar to it was in 2019 when we had Nick Zoris and Tyson Hayes. And, we played them both and, let the game tell you who was going to kind of take the role.
Jared, you had a successful season last year. How do you continue to build off that success, and how do you continue to be that guy that can be called upon in the tough situations?
Yeah, so you kind of have to move forward from the season, but not forget about it. So going into the fall and going into this season, I have to remember I was successful and I can do it again and that sort of thing. But it's not the same season. So we're all starting with 0 ERAs, and we're all starting with 0 hits, and guys are ready to get after it. So you just kind of have to go in and attack again.
Jared, you said you took the summer off. What was the goal of doing that to help you prepare for this season?
Taking the summer off was for me to be able to rebuild my body and just kind of recover from the season. I kind of had a bunch of different roles, so it was a little difficult on my body to start, relieve, close. So being able to take the summer off, I got to work out a lot, put on a little weight for longevity and stuff like that, and durability.
Look, the team had Cermak and McCaw to definitely be the leaders as far as age and hitting last year. Do you want to move into one of those type of roles, and who else is kind of going to be the veterans of that of the position players?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was very lucky to be here in my freshman year and play with some older guys, and last year with Cermak and McCaw, just really good leaders, really good people. So I've been able to learn a lot from them. As far as the leadership role goes, I think it's something that is kind of earned. It's not like you don't really pick and choose. So I just try and go out there and do my best, do my part, and lead by example. And if guys follow that, that's pretty cool. But I think as far as the position players go, you have a lot of new guys, whether it's JUCO guys or freshmen. So like I said, I think for me, it's my job to go out there, kind of set the example. But I think we got a really good group of guys that are going to work together, and I think you'll see some of the older guys. Even JT Sokolov, he's a sophomore, but got to play a lot last year. Greg Nichols, guys like that are going to really step up, and I think it'll make for a great year.
Do you have somebody penciled into the DH spot, or will just be a lot of guys coming in and out of that?
So far, there's a young man named Noah Rabin, and he has, at this point, somewhat separated himself. He's a left-handed hitter from California. Very successful junior college career out there. He was one of our better hitters throughout the fall, and then he's continued to kind of do that in January. I would, if we had to start today, he's probably the guy that we'd pencil in there, and there's a lot of games left here down the stretch, but he certainly provides a presence, can hit the ball over the fence, something that we certainly were missing with a few guys last year. So I think he would be a guy that you would give a good look to.
Coach, another tough non-con schedule. Any team specifically you're looking forward to playing?
The first one of the season, Austin Peay. We need to get our guys out there. I know last year when we finished, I went out with my sport administrator to lunch, and he said, "Man, I can't wait for next year," because we had played so many young guys, and I was like, I need some time. So you play that many young guys, you want to pull your hair out sometimes. So we're looking forward to getting our guys back out there. We feel like they have that seasoning. A lot of those young guys went out to summer ball, had successful summer balls and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think you got to get down there and see how you fit. Get those guys together and let them play together and see where you're at.
Some other pitchers are kind of be filling different roles as far as bullpen, spot start, guys like that.
I think you'll see Cam maybe possibly slide into that role that we had Colin Lyman in, which was I think we referred to it as our Swiss Army knife role last year, where you just pitch him when you need to calm the game down. They have very similar personalities, kind of no pulse at all, like flatline. You're not even sure if they're alive sometimes. And you can put them in bases loaded, nobody out, give them the ball, just like that. And that role is very, very valuable to a college baseball team. I think that would be a great role for Cam maybe if we can keep him in there. There's a portal addition named Elijah Dale that's been electric at times for us out of the bullpen. He would certainly fit somewhere in the back end of the game. He came to us from Kansas State. He was a kid that we recruited out of high school as a shortstop, and obviously Kansas State did as well. And they trumped us and got him, and they converted him to pitcher, which we did not see coming. And ultimately, we looked it up on the portal and saw him and saw some of his stuff, and we were very intrigued by it. We called him up, and we ended up getting him a couple of years later than we first anticipated. But he's been really, really good for us, and I think that it'll be an addition to the back end of the bullpen that we have not had those kind of arms where you can match up this guy being left-handed and him being a right-handed, very similar stuff, but very, very difficult to hit at times.
Coach, what are some of the things that you've seen on the practice field and in the weight room that excites you for the season?
I think this group is very cohesive. They've kind of come together. The older guys on this team were younger guys for us, and this will be the first year that's occurred, where these guys are all kind of grew up underneath our structure per se, and so when the new guys have come in, they've been able to explain like what we're looking for. And ultimately, every coach wants to have coaches on the field, because you can't coach everything. And our first couple of years, it was like we're going left, we're going right. We're trying to coach all these little things. And now that stuff is cleaned up for us. These guys have done a good job of just saying, helping those young guys in ways, in times and hours that we're not there. And I think that's the one thing that's been the biggest, pleasure to have this team do for us is those little things are getting cleaned up before we have to, and that gives us more time to coach baseball, which is ultimately what we want to do.